about a little while ago with someone about Congress and Senate, but he has built a reputation of being a practical problem solver with a willingness to work across party lines and with everybody, focused on a solution more than an agenda. Of course, he has worked for Central Louisiana for so many years. He's always been gracious and generous and invited me in when I wanted to come talk with him about Social Security, and particularly the web and the TPO. And he was available and able to solve something when we were having problems with transfer on the international paper transfer with some of the restrictions. He made a phone call and just made things happen. It's always good to have him here, but it's my honor to again introduce to you my friend and our senator, Dr. Bill Cassidy.
I thank all for having me. You mentioned I'm a doctor. You probably heard my joke before. What kind of doctor are you? Well, I'm a liver doctor. The technical name of a liver doctor is hepatologist, but if you say hepatology, people think you either do snakes or venereal disease. So I would say liver doctor. And by the way, I wasn't sure whether to wear a coat or tie, but I saw these two guys walking in. And one didn't have a coat or tie, and one of them just had a coat but no tie. So I figured I would get by. So, fellas, you kind of influenced the way I'm dressed today. So thank you for what you do. We got a partnership here. Our partnership is how do we make Central Louisiana and our country a better place to live. And a lot of you folks have made it. You're doing pretty well. So it may not be for the folks in this room. It's for our children, our grandchildren, and generations we've not yet seen. People have moved to Central Louisiana to find economic opportunity. Some of you may know the author Walter Isaacson out of New Orleans, famous author. He's written many things. He's got shows on PBS, and I can keep going down the list. His grandparents are buried in Pineville. I suspect Eastern European Jewish immigrants came to Central Louisiana to find economic opportunity. We want our state to be a place that people move to in order to have greater success. And their children and grandchildren to stay in our state, Walter's in New Orleans, to continue to have that great success. As St. Paul says, we go from glory to greater glory. And that's what we want. So, what are some of the ways that we can partner? Now, Gail, I'm going to call you out in just a second. But if our goal is how do we create a better environment, and that's our partnership, I'll speak to some things I've already spoken to, but feel like it needs to still be spoken of. The bipartisan infrastructure bill continues to bring benefits for our state. And almost the only thing that limits the benefits that are coming to our state is our willingness to seek that opportunity. Gail mentioned as I walked in, she was a little skeptical about it. And since she has seen the benefits, she's no longer skeptical. Governor Jeff Landry and I just made a joint announcement 4 or 5 days ago about $1.35 billion. $1.35 billion coming to our state to build up high-speed affordable internet. And I looked it up. Rapides Parish is eligible for the second most in the entire state. You're eligible for about 24 million, Calcasieu 23 million, and after that comes everybody else. Calcasieu 25 million, their first year 24 million. Why? You're a big parish. But there's a lot of people here who would qualify, but who do not yet have high-speed affordable internet. Why does that matter? I can tell you it matters a lot. I was just down in Holden, Louisiana, Livingston Parish, and I met some farmers market, Kane supermarket. They have a farmers market within their grocery store. And there's a guy there, Southern Boys. Now, B-O-Y-Z. Now, you see Southern Boys, you think maybe it might be a rapper, B-O-Y-Z. But the guy's dressed like this fellow back here with a baseball cap, you know what I'm saying, with a beard. You could be Kermit, you know what I'm saying? You could be Southern Boys. He's got 2.7 million Facebook followers out of Baptist, Louisiana. Baptist, where's Baptist? So they're coming west on the I-10, and you see the sign for Pumpkin Center. on the I-12, on the I-12, Pumpkin Center. Beneath that, it says Baptist. I always just noticed the Pumpkin Center, but it's also Baptist. He's on Highway 190, 2.7 million Facebook followers. He is the #1 seller of jambalaya mix on Amazon, more than Zatarans. He's got these he'll give a 3-minute video on how to cook, how to boil crawfish. Okay, so it's like, 1 step, boil the water. 2, put in this much Zatarans. 3, put in that much more Zatarans. Number 4, put in that much more Zatarans. Then put in your potatoes, and he just does it in a way that people like. So he's probably 45, 50, but he thinks about social media all the time. And because Baptist Louisiana has access to high-speed, affordable internet, he's constantly uploading content. So that people move to Louisiana, he tells me, because they like his culture so much. He's got a store in Baptist that is moving outdoor stuff, food. He goes around and boils crawfish for people all over the place. So that said, it creates economic opportunity for a fellow who's not in New Orleans or Baton Rouge or Shreveport, not in Alexandria. He's in Baptist, Louisiana. That's a particularly good thing to emphasize Baptist, since that we are Louisiana Christian College today. Secondly, the infrastructure. I mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. There's $5.9 billion coming to our state, 1.2 billion more than otherwise would come to build roads and bridges. There's money for flood mitigation. I see Paul here at LSUA, we never worked with LSUA to improve their drainage. But that was across the state. I met with Mayor Roy about there's money to help harden the grid. So if you have a municipal grid in Alexandria, it can upgrade that to give you less wasted electricity. Now, I keep giving examples because some of you are civic leaders, some of you are in businesses that are profit. But we only profit if we go after it. Now, some folks will say, no, it's somebody else that can win. I've never won before. I can't win. It's kind of like the lottery. Why should I participate because I'm never going to win? There is so much opportunity your community can win. And I think that was my conversation with Gail. I was down in Southwest Louisiana, and there's a bunch of men, except for one mayor who's a female from Abbeville. And the men were a little skeptical. And the mayor of Abbeville said, Mayor Abbeville, I got this. It's not wasted money. It is helping her community to be a better place to live. And finally, the other guys started saying, well, how did you do that? And it's kind of like iron sharpeneth iron. When you see that someone else is kind of your peer, is able to achieve, it makes you realize that you can achieve too. I'll give another example. The mayor of Donaldsonville, great guy. It's $30 million, I don't think I'm overestimating, from the bipartisan infrastructure bill to replace deteriorating natural gas lines in Donaldsonville. So the first year, he gets like $5 million. And the parish of East Feliciana gets like $400,000. The next year, the guy from East Feliciana was great. So Donaldsonville gets that much more, maybe 20 million. But Donaldsonville gets like 5 million. Excuse me, East Feliciana gets like 5 million. And he goes, I came here last year, and Donaldsonville doesn't so well, and we had not. I wasn't resentful. I said, God, we're going to work that much harder. And he went back and got an engineering firm, and they worked that much harder. And he said, this year we went from 400,000 to several $1 million. That's a good work. And East Feliciana didn't say we're just little old East Feliciana, one of the least populated states in the least populated parishes in the state. They said, no, if they did it, we can do it too. And because they're replacing that, one, they're creating jobs, but two, they're creating an infrastructure where if somebody in the industry wants to locate there, they now are saying, oh, I can trust the natural gas lines, I will relocate there. So it's all good news. Let's see if we're illustration. Oh, I'm also very pleased to say, looking at all my education institutes, If we're going to create a place where we keep our young people and we attract more, we've got to focus on higher education. So nursing programs, huge. We need nurses. And so we're having a hearing on this. Bernie Sanders is my chairman of the committee I'm on. Bernie's kind of fun, because I'm right here. So imagine this is me. And Bernie will get wild, and Bernie will just get worked up. He goes, billionaires, they're stealing all our money like this. And I'm over here, hey, Bernie, come on, man. I'm blocking his punch like I'm Spider-Man. You're not going to hit me with that one. But one thing we can agree on is workforce development, particularly in the area of healthcare. And it comes to mind because in our hearing on workforce, there was a senator from Kansas, Roger Marshall. And he goes, I can't help but notice that if a young person goes from small town Kansas to the state capital to get their nursing degree, they tend to stay in the state capital. But if somebody gets their nursing degree in their community college, their local university, their regional university, they stay in that small town. So we've got two things here, right? Three things. We need more nursing. We particularly need more nursing personnel. I say nursing, but it could also be some of your allied tech, allied health. You also need it, it's maldistributed. New Orleans doesn't really have a problem with nursing, but I can tell you probably Rapid's Parish does. And Eunice does, and some of the other places we know. So it's like you want more nursing, but you also want to distribute it as more evenly. And as distributed more evenly, you want the benefits of having better healthcare with better jobs also spread more evenly. That's our goal. So my office was privileged to work with LSUA, with LSUE, with the Louisiana Christian College to try how do we improve those nursing programs for that other opportunity. Now, by the way, in some cases, that young person will get an associate degree. That's okay. I always go back to a woman I worked with, Earl K. Long. I used to work in the public hospital system. Earl Long was the equivalent of Huey Long Hospital. She started off as a nursing assistant, single mom. And then she went from an LPN, nursing assistant to LPN. Then she got her associate RN. Then she got her bachelor's. And then she got her master's. And she ended up being the nurse supervisor in the clinic where she started off as the nurse's assistant. That's the power of education. Not just to improve her life, but to demonstrate to her children the power of education, the power of extra work and delayed gratification. We want that through our state. I really want to hear it as well. And so we're going to be working hard on what can we do for those allied health and nursing programs to bring that benefit. Let me see. Oh, weapon GPO. Weapon GPO. If I'm on a program with Mike Johnson, I got to talk about weapon GPO. Is anybody here affected by windfall elimination provision and broken pension offset? I got a few signals. Is anybody here, I'm looking around, affected by Social Security? I see a lot of the men might be affected by Social Security. I don't see any of the women who would be like that. But anyway, that's just Social Security. Let me start off with Social Security. Social Security, that program almost all of us pay into with every paycheck, is going insolvent in about 7 years. What does that mean? There's a trust fund that has extra money that we paid in over the years. But now that's going empty. Why? Because we have more people receiving benefits than people that are paying in. The difference is being paid with this trust fund. But that trust fund is going down, 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 down like a gas gauge on your car. And in about 8 years from now, it goes empty. By law, when that happens, the amount going out decreases to equal the amount going in. And that'll be about a 20% cut. Everybody who's on social, everybody who's going to be on social, will get a 20% cut under current law if we do nothing. That's number one. weapon GPO, windfall elimination provision, and government pension offset was something that Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich did when Clinton was president to try and balance the federal budget. And what they said is that if you're a state or local employee and you're not paying into Social Security, we're going to decrease your benefit a little bit for those years in which you didn't pay into social. Okay, that's kind of fair. Okay, if I pay into social for 40 years, and someone else only pays in for 10 years, then my benefit should be a little bit better. But they penalize them too much, way too much. It looked great because they balanced the budget, but if you're one of those Social Security beneficiaries and all of a sudden you don't get any benefit when your spouse dies, it's being laid on your back. To fix that costs $7 trillion over 75 years. $7 trillion. To fix social, all of social costs $615 trillion. So my strategy has been, let's fix all of social. Let's take care of Social Security and then add weapon GPO repeal on top of it. Because when you're fixing $615 trillion, taking $7 trillion more is not a big deal. So it's hard to say that $7 trillion is not a big deal. But in this case, if you're taking care of $615 trillion, $7 trillion more, people are not going to notice. So I'll tell you what the strategy we have, and we hope to get it done next Congress. We set up an investment fund. This is Social Security Trust Fund. We set up an investment fund separate from Social Security. Here's Social Security. Here's our investment fund. We put $1.5 trillion in it over the next 5 years. $1.5 trillion. And we invest it like you would your 401k. Now, it wouldn't be the federal government. They would bid out, but somebody would invest it on behalf of the taxpayer. And you put that 1.5K in the stock market, into real estate, in oil and gas, and you name it, just like you would in a well-managed 401k. If you do that, with the expected rate of return, in about 60 years, it just blossoms. And you end up with the ability to pay back almost all of the money that you'll need to borrow to pay people their scheduled benefits. And you can repeal weapon GPO. That's our goal. People do it all across the country. The Canadians do this, the Norwegians do this, the Singaporeans do this. Like country after country does it, but the United States does not. We are adopting best practices. And by the way, when the Norwegians do it, they invest their money in the U.S. economy. When the Japanese do it, they invest their money in the U.S. economy. And yet we're not investing in our own economy for the benefit of our own people. So this is my goal. This is how I repeal weapon GPO. Last Congress, I actually had 7 Republican senators and 7 Democratic senators who were willing to go up publicly and announce their support for this proposal. We briefed the Biden White House 4 times on it, and the Biden White House said, no, we're not going to do it. In fact, we'll fight you on. And my Democratic colleagues said, well, it's off. We can't do it as long as the president has to sign the law. We're Democrats, we're not going to fight with our Democratic president. But we'll have a new president next time. I'm not sure who that will be. But I think it's kind of 50-50 now. But whoever the next president is, we're going to bring it back up because this is too big of an issue not to address. Not just for weapon GPO, but for everybody out there that's going to rely upon Social Security for their retirement. I can tell you more about it. There's work incentives in there that would, some of these people are 65 years old that they keep working but suddenly get less money from their social. We repeal that so you're more likely to have an older worker with all their experience continue to work for you. Other good things in there that I think make central Louisiana and our country a better place to be. I don't know if I got any time left for questions, but I'd love to see if there's a question. How's it going?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm a financial advisor. They was introduced about Social Security. Right now, when you pay into Social Security, you only pay your Social Security FICA taxes on a portion of your income. for married couples, five and jointly, to phase out Social Security taxes somewhere around $160,000 of AGI, or that's gross income per year. Is there a proposal or an idea to raise that income phase out threshold, the higher earners, more like 250,000, 350,000 plus, so that you could specifically tax higher income earners? I'm never in favor of raising taxes for anybody, let me make that clear. However, if you wanted an income tax raise on higher earners, could you do that, or would that help solve the problem as well?
So, really sophisticated question. It really is, because we've been working on this for 3 or 4 years now. And most people in Congress could not, beyond the most superficial, answer that question. So let me go here. When Ronald, let me start over. In 1942 or whenever, when Franklin Roosevelt started Social Security, 90% of wage income was taxed. Have the payroll tax applied to it. So 90%. Meaning if you take everybody's income, 90% of the income was subject to it. Over time, that 90% fell to 83%. So there's people who are higher earners that were no longer paying, would have been if they stayed at 90. When Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill did their reform in 1982, I think, they actually gradually raised that 83 back to 90. And one of the ways that they were able to extend the life of Social Security then was precisely what you described. Now that 90 has once again come back down to 83. So one proposal would be, could you gradually raise 83 back up to 90? I mentioned that our investment pool takes care of most of it, but there's a little bit at the top. We've got some dials around here that we can do this or we can do that. And one of the things you could do is take 83 back to 90. That's one. Now, by the way, this is a political decision as much as an economic. So whoever our next president is, we're going to get these different dials. We're going to say, do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. We need you to sign it in the law, what you're in. One of the proposals I have that would increase that last margin is, what if we ended up expanding oil and gas development off the coast of Louisiana? Use our natural resources that could, and we think that could raise $240 million. If all we did was drill for more oil and gas off the coast of Louisiana, that creates a lot of jobs. A lot of jobs. So I'm really, to me, that's kind of the way to go. Let's use the abundance of our country to benefit the taxpayer. So that's another way to go about it. So.
Bill,
I'm good. How are you?
I remember you from the North Shore Tea Party when I first met you, Ben Carter, the campaign there.
And we spoke here before too.
Oh, yeah. My question for you, I'm a Social Security guy, I get 12.85 or something like that a month. We're having a problem in Alexandria. I got beat down for asking questions over there. As a Republican, we got a Democratic mayor over there. And we're having problems with our utilities. Is anything in the federal government help us out with utilities in Alexandria? And like I said, go to YouTube for me, it's lost of life. You'll see the beat down maybe in a second. Just asking the question.
So going back to the infrastructure bill, in most utilities, you're paying for whatever extra is wasted. So if you have a power line that does not have enough capacity, it actually shoots off electrons. And so you may lose 10 to 15% of your electricity because your line is not able to handle it. Going back to Donaldsonville, the mayor there estimates he was losing 25% of his natural gas from leakage from pipes that had deteriorated. So if you replace the pipe, then you stop having that leakage, and the ratepayer is no longer, the homeowner is no longer paying for a third or 25% more natural gas than he has to, or she has to, because it's not leaking. You with me? So the same thing for electrons. If you upgrade your city grid, and Mayor Roy, I don't know where he is on this, but if you upgrade the grid and you reduce the leakage, your rates would theoretically go down because less electricity generated is still all that's needed in order to power what you're doing. So. This is about making our state a better place.
Senator, I do want to thank you very much. I was kind of like some of the other mayors you were talking about earlier in regard to grants. Initially, I was kind of like that. Didn't want to go through the process of applying for them because I was scared of what the workload and all the activities were for it. But I can tell you, we've been very successful with y'all's help. Being awarded multiple grants from multiple different agencies and have other ones that we're waiting to hear back right now. And it's completely shaping us for the future by having the infrastructure to be able to continue to grow on. We would like to thank you very much.
Thanks, Ben. Your report, I mean, obviously is going to be the gateway. The fact that now Barksdale is using the sea and the air in order to move stuff is good for our country, good for Central Louisiana, and good for your port. So thanks for taking advantage of it. I keep pushing this. I feel like an evangelist trying to get people to take advantage of what's out there. But if we don't take advantage of it, someone in Texas does, or someone in Arkansas does. And when our young people move to another state, guess what? That's on us. We got to do something positive. Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, Gail. I'm sorry, Gail. No, it's,
I want to say, you and I go back a long way on opposite sides of infrastructure, this infrastructure. I'm going to equal and say, I'm wrong. That's not easy for me.
wait, your husband's taking out his voice memo. He wants to get that recorded.
What I want to join in what he said. And my friend Rosalind, the mayor of Adville, and my friend, I love Mike, so from Gross Cat, you proved me wrong. You proved to me that the little guys, us, we can get it. It's not all Shreveport, not all New Orleans, not all Baton Rouge. It's places like us.
Yes.
That has never happened before. Thank you.
Grosstet was famous for having a truck stop where a woman bit the testes of a camel. Okay? Yeah. But what the mayor did is he put in broadband internet into Grosstet. And two things. One, it became a bedroom community. So that people in Baton Rouge and Lafayette, couples will meet there. And secondly, that big truck stop, it could begin taking credit cards, which allowed them to expand, which increased the sales tax revenue. High-speed affordable internet became an economic driver for Grosstet, Louisiana. Not raising taxes, getting more taxes that were going to come to them because now they got to expand the sales tax. And because they have more property taxes, because people are moving in, on and on. All of that is incredibly positive. And that can come from any community. And did I say, Rapides Parish is eligible for the second most in the state for high-speed affordable internet. So, yes, sir.
Well, Senator Ed Tarleton, I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for your service. And I have a question for you. In 2020, you were reelected overwhelmingly. President Trump endorsed you for your reelection at that point. Then a few months later, you were one of 5 or 6 Republican senators to vote to impeach President Trump. Since that time, would it be fair to say that your relationship has been a little less cordial with President Trump? At this point, I would like to ask you, do you regret the vote to impeach President Trump? And would you support the Republican ticket in the fall election?
Hey, I don't know if I want to thank you for that question, but anyway. I occasionally ask about that vote. Well, it's kind of my career. I don't regret it. And what I tell people is there's now 8 hours, I think it's 8 hours, maybe more than 8 hours, of YouTube in the 8 hours of YouTube of the hearing in which the impeachment trial took place. And all I can say is watch it. And imagine you have been a juror who has raised your hand and been sworn to protect the Constitution against all enemies, domestic and foreign. All I can say is watch it. I can't defend myself. I'm not going to try and convince you. I will say, one guy watched it, he goes, I disagree with you. I may still disagree with you, but I see why you voted like you did. Now, that's all I can ask. Now, folks say, well, I don't have the time for it. This is America. This is the United States. Like, you don't have time for it? If you're kind of upset about it. If you move beyond, that's fine. But if it's something which you're still learning about, then I just encourage you to. Now, as regards next election, whoever the president is, if he or she is doing something good for our country, I'm going to support that president. And if he or she is doing something bad for our country, I'm going to oppose that president. Now, it turns out I happen to agree with most of what President Trump supported in his first term. People smile over John Kennedy. I love John Kennedy, my colleague. I love the former president too. My colleague is who I'm speaking of. And I actually voted with Trump marginally more than he did. And if you look at Trump's healthcare stuff, most of which were mine ideas. So I anticipate, if he's president, working very closely with him. I think our Social Security proposal will be something he embraces. You know, this is not personal. If he decides he wants to come after me, that's fine. That's just the way it is. But it's more important for me to live my life with what I perceive as integrity than it is to live my life in fear.
Would you be supporting a particular cause?
Well, put it this way, I'm not voting for Kamala Harris. I said help me some money. They think, bro.
I think it helps Social Security a whole lot if we deported 20 million illegals who are going to get Social Security pretty soon.
I'm sorry.
20 million. If we deported 20 million illegals, it would do a lot to Social Security, and it would also keep the healthcare industry from being flooded with them going to the emergency room, which they're doing right now.
I am absolutely in agreement. We've got to control that southern border. Absolutely. And when Vice President Harris, now they're kind of soft pedaling it, but at some point they said she was going to be the czar of the southern border. Didn't work. By the way, clearly Congress gave the executive branch tools to control the southern border, because as soon as it became an election issue, the Biden administration has begun to clamp down on the southern border, and they've been able to clamp down on it.
They've been flying over it.
So then as we go to Social Security, as we go to social, illegals don't get social benefits. So,
They get citizenship, they do, and they.
well, once they get citizenship, that's a long process. But in terms of if you come here illegally, you are not supposed to get citizenship with very narrow exceptions unless you return to your own country. I should say one more thing, by the way. Tommy Steve Murray, right there. Tommy's back there waiting, Brian McNabb's right next to her, Sean Hanscom. All three work for me. So if y'all have things on a federal level that you need done, contact him. Now, unfortunately, Tommy can't control the southern border. I know that. But it'd be great if she could. But on the other hand, for example, somebody who's got a destination wedding in the Bahamas and realizes a week before she's supposed to leave that she didn't renew her passport. That was a real life example. Or a missionary goes to Mexico and marries a Mexican woman and they can't come back because they won't process her citizenship. That's another example. Or someone whose father, now deceased, was due a Purple Heart but never received it. We can work to get the posthumous Purple Heart. Or one of our new professors here at Louisiana Christian College, Asher Bellum, who is, he got his PhD from LSU. We went to church together, to chapel on the campus. I taught his children in Sunday school. Louisiana Christian College needed a math teacher. I said, I know a guy who would like to come back, and we were able to help him, but more importantly, Louisiana College in terms of getting a new math professor. But if there's something with the federal government that we can help you with, if you would let us know, would like to help you. There's a wonderful scripture, Mark 10:42 to 45. Now, and I got so many pastors in here, I'm gonna screw it up. But basically, Jesus says, among your worldly rulers, they lord it over you. But in the kingdom of heaven, he who wishes to lead must be a servant, and he who wishes, or she who wishes to be first, must be a slave. And my staff, I will tell you, they're the greatest servants. Thank you very much.
Mayor Ball, would you please come and say a few words?
I'm not gonna tell you that, it's all features. It's a private thing. I used to be a member of the Chamber of Young People Club, but I can't remember when that was, because it's been so long since I've been for it. Well, anyway, I'm very proud of these guys. Greetings from the Moon Pie capital of Louisiana. Things are going really, really well in the town hall. We're digging ditches, cutting grass, replacing culverts, about to begin our new building on Lift Station 11, and the long-awaited Curtis Park subdivision project is beginning. You guys have been with me from the very beginning when we tried to get the money for Curtis Park. It's happened, and the work is beginning in September. We're gearing up for Blue Walk. That's going to be. Mike, I have a section to thank you in just a minute. But look at that. You didn't do that at all when you were doing Haskins up here. Oh, that's right. Okay.